Let me take this off the screen. 7-8 matchup we got going. Hawks Magic. Pavy, talk to us. What do you think? What do you feel? Obviously, you're a Trae Young fan. The Hawks have shown a lot of growth with their younger players this year. Obviously, they aren't the team that they were when they were competing for an Eastern Conference championship a few years ago. But what are your thoughts overall about where this team is, where they can go? Obviously, you've been a day one Trae Young truther. What are your overall thoughts about the Hawks this season and the Magic, and then how they'll play into this matchup? Because I know last year you were very fond of both of these teams. I'm not saying you thought they were going to win the championship, but you were just fond of the growth and where the trajectory and where they can head. And now it kind of seems like they're both in a middling territory. The Hawks 40-42. Magic finished basically 500 after a great season last year. What are your thoughts, Pavy? I'm actually very curious to hear that.
Um, Hawks, I think the Hawks would have had a better season if Jalen Johnson hadn't got hurt. I think Jalen Johnson getting hurt really put like a damper on their season. I mean, he's a guy that I think that, I mean, I wouldn't have said he's going to be an all-star because he wasn't that good, but I mean, he was borderline all-star level. And I think that he's a
You
guy
know
that,
what? You know what? I'm sorry, not to cut you off. I swear to God, right hand to the man, I genuinely forgot he got hurt.
yeah, he
Because
got hurt.
when he got hurt, hold on, wait a minute, hold on.
He was averaging like 20 and 10, basically.
Yeah, hold on, wait a minute. Let me see. Jalen Johnson. Yeah, when Jalen Johnson got hurt, he was averaging 18.9, 10 rebounds a game, 5 assists, shooting 50% from the field, 31.2 from three, 74.6 from the free throw line. He had a 17.3 PER. Win shares was 2.4. He played very, very well. His turnovers were the highest they had ever been, but he was taking the most shots he had ever, taken in his career. He's playing 36 minutes a night. Only played 36 games, for the season before he was out. I actually forgot about that, Pavy. Great point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that he's a guy that could be a borderline all-star for the next 5 to 10 years in the NBA. So and obviously what Dyson Daniels brought probably going to be the defensive player of the year or get at least some votes for defensive player of the year. And Zachary Richardson, I think people had a lot to say about him being the number one pick, but I think that after they got rid of, let me go through the stats as far as the splits month by month, but as far as when they finally got rid of DeAndre Hunter, which was the writing was on the wall for DeAndre Hunter to go. Even though I think DeAndre Hunter was having a great season, you don't pick a guy number one overall and then have him sitting on the bench. So once Zachary Richardson got more playing time, I mean, he pretty much went up every month. Like February, he was giving you basically 13 points on 47% shooting from the field, 44% from three. In March, he was giving you 16 points on 53% from the field and basically 40% from three. And this is when he started became a starter. And in April, he was giving you what he gave you 13, 50, and 40, basically. So, like, he's basically been a 50-40 shooter. That's what you want for your number one pick. Like, I mean, I think that, I don't think anybody thought he was going to be a superstar, but I do think people thought he was going to be a really quality wing in the NBA for the next decade. And I think that Atlanta finally has a team that can grow with Trae Young, and you have the pieces around him that you need to win, right? Like, if you have Trae Young, you obviously need a guard like Dyson Daniels, more you need a guard like DeJounte Murray. You need a more defensive-minded guard, just because obviously Trae has defensive limitations. So I don't think it was a bad season for them. Obviously, you want to win more games, but I think they would have. I don't think there was a path for them to be a top 6 seed, which is probably the problem with the Hawks. I don't know if there's a path for them to be a top 6 seed just because the East is so tough. But I do think that they finally have a lineup that fits with Trae Young more than what they had 1 or 2 years ago. As far as the Magic, they just got hurt. I think if they would have been on the court, obviously Jalen Suggs was out, Paolo got hurt, Franz got hurt, Mo Wagner tore his ACL. They were just riddled with injuries. Also, I think you probably wanted more from KCP than what he gave you. I don't think KCP, when you paid KCP that money, I think you probably wanted more than what he ended up giving you. Like, he gave you literally in 77 games, he gave you 8 points in 29 minutes. And he shot 34% from three. Granted, everything was worse. Granted, obviously, it's a difference between playing with Jokic and leaving Jokic and trying to do it on your own. Again, I remember watching the Olympics. I remember what Jamal Murray looked like with Canada. And I remember what Bogdan Bogdanovic looked like with Serbia. And I know what Jamal Murray looked like when he with Jokic. That wasn't the same Jamal Murray we saw in the Olympics. So it might be a thing with KCP. Jokic got that man paid because the KCP that we saw in Denver and the KCP we saw this year in Orlando was not the same guy. So I think you probably wanted more from KCP, which is probably disappointing when you paid him that money. But again, I think the main thing for the Magic is that they just got hurt. Like I think Paulo is still on the way to be a top 10 guy in the league. Franz top 15 guy in the league. You got those two guys for probably the next decade. So yeah, I just think that they just got hurt personally. I think if they would have been healthy, they would have contended for a time. I think them and Detroit would have been contending for that 6th seed if they would have been healthy the whole year. Or maybe they might have been even where Milwaukee is if they could have stayed healthy throughout the entire season. So I think it sucks for them. But as far as this game, I'm gonna go with the Magic. I'm gonna pick the Magic to win this game. I think that I just think that they just had a better team, top to bottom. So yeah, I'm gonna pick the Magic to win this game personally.
All right, cool. I like that. So for me, I'm gonna pick the Hawks to win this game. I actually think that Atlanta's gonna randomly have a great game. And even looking and based on the opinion about the Jalen Johnson thing, which I said I forgot, that he even got hurt. George Niang is starting in Jalen Johnson's position. So if Jalen Johnson is there, especially with the development, as you said, of Zachary Ricochet, you got Onyeka Okongwu. Shout out to LeVar Ball. People don't give LeVar Ball credit, but LeVar Ball actually gave the NBA 3 quality players. Lonzo, LaMelo, and Onyeka Okongwu were all on his AAU team, high school teams that he coached and that he ran. Shout out to LeVar Ball. Shout out to the big baller. But I'm gonna take the Hawks to win this game. I think they're gonna catch lightning in the bottle. I think personally, as I said with that, Warriors.
Blake was hurt was an error, by the way.
It really was. Blake was hurt.
Blake was always hurt, bro. Blake was literally always hurt, bro.
Joel was hurt.
Joel was hurt. Embiid was hurt. Embiid was hurt.
Luka was hurt. That's what you gonna be saying. Luka was hurt. LeBron was healthy. Luka was hurt.
Oh man! Shout out Blake Griffin, man.
But
Hope
if I'm the Magic, actually, I kind of want to avoid the Celtics. I would rather go toe-to-toe again with the Cavs and let's mano it out and try to shock them like the Warriors did the Mavericks. So I'm going to take the Hawks to actually win this game. I have no real basketball reason for that other than I think the Hawks will catch lightning in a bottle. Trae Young is big time. He lives for big moments. I will never discredit Trae Young's ability to be a clutch player or a big-time player. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to do this. I criticized you a lot before you got in the league. I questioned your game. I questioned your height. I questioned if you would be able to get your shot off. I questioned your arrogance in college and if you was taking too many threes. I questioned why they wanted you and why they kept comparing you to Steph Curry. I questioned your ability to pass the ball. And every single criticism that I've had of you, you have surpassed them all. You have outgrown them all. Trae Young, I just want to issue a personal apology to you and say congratulations for becoming the guy that everyone thought that you would become. And I'm sorry that I didn't believe that you would become that guy. Now, I do believe that there are other levels in which you will hopefully be able to hit as a great player. Obviously, you're missing a great sidekick like Jalen Johnson, and you got a young future sidekick like Zachary Ricochet, waiting in the wings. But Trae Young, if my hand wasn't fucked up, I would give you a round of applause. A round of applause for you, Trae Young. You actually became what they said you would do, and I'm sorry that I doubted you, bro.
That was cute.
Nah, it's not about it being cute. It's when I'm wrong, because I love how everybody always, TP, you got all these hot takes. Yeah, but when I'm wrong with a take, I'll tell you I'm wrong with a take. It is what it is. Sometimes people be wrong. So let's go ahead and let's get into what I believe will be the bloodbath.
Hold on, wait.
What?
We didn't say who we think will actually make the playoffs. We just picked who's gonna win these games.
Oh, okay. I forget. I forgot about that. Go ahead. Go ahead. My
Um,
bad. My
I
bad. My
think the
bad.
Bulls. I think I'm listen. I may be wrong. You know, Atlanta may go in there and beat the Bulls or whatever because I think that'll be the matchup Atlanta versus Chicago, and it would be in Atlanta. But man, I'm picking the Bulls to make the playoffs, bro. Again, like I said, I love what I've been seeing for the Bulls. I actually think it's very exciting for the city. Like I said, the Bulls finally did what you've been wanting them to do: break it down, rebuild. They tried to tank. They just happened to be too good to tank. Um, I think Kobe White could realistically match Trey Young for one game. I think Josh can go out there and get you a triple double. Granted, he gonna have to do it on Dyson Daniels. Well, somebody had to do it on Dyson Daniels, which is gonna be tough. It's gonna be very tough. But I think Giddy can go out there and get you a triple double. I think Matas can go out there and get you 18, 19, have a game. And look out for Vucevic, man. Vucevic is still a guy who has been a all-star before. He's not washed. He can still play basketball. And I think he's a really good veteran center for this team to have as just a veteran presence and like a professional as these young guys continue to grow. So I think in the playoffs we'll have Boston versus Orlando, and I think we will have Cleveland versus Chicago in the first round. And moving towards the Western Conference, I think the Warriors and Memphis make the playoffs. Whatever seeding it is, whatever. But I think both of those teams make the playoffs. I don't think Dallas makes the playoffs. And I don't think the Kings make the playoffs either. I think the last two seeds are going to be the Warriors and the Grizzlies, however it shakes out.
I'm not upset at that. Me personally, I'm going to take the Chicago Bulls and I'm going to take the Atlanta Hawks to make the playoffs. I am not going to root against the Bulls if they play the Magic. As I said, I believe the Hawks will catch lightning in a bottle and beat the Magic. I think the Bulls will beat the Heat. I think that the Kings will beat the Mavericks. I'm taking the Grizzlies to actually beat the Warriors. And I'm not going to lie, bro. I believe Steve Kerr gets fired this summer.
Wow, what fired?
Yeah.
Why?
Cause I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs.
Mm. So you think Dallas is going to beat them?
I think that Sunday, Warriors Clippers was their playoff game, their playoff series, and they blew that at the end of it. They had I watched literally I own a comedy club. We had a comedy show Friday. I spent all week long prepping for it and carrying stuff, moving around. So I've just been so sore all week. Sunday I worked, I edited some sets, and I'm like, all right, cool. The Warriors game, when it gets to the fourth quarter, I'm gonna turn on my little foot massager, chill out, and actually not do nothing for an hour and a half. I did that. I watched that Warriors game very closely and very intently. And Ty Lue, which I respect about Ty Lue, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. Ty Lue still carries that passion and that fury of a player when it comes to defensive mishaps and offensive mishaps and coaching mishaps. Ty Lue, at the end of the fourth quarter, the Clippers got the rebound, I believe. The game was tied. Kawhi Leonard brought the ball up the court with like 17, something like that, seconds left.
Yeah.
They could have called a timeout and ran an actual organized play, but instead they called a play, and what the play was supposed to be was for Kawhi to bring the ball up on this side of the floor, right? And then Zubac was supposed to come around, set a screen, get Kawhi driving to the rim or a mid-range shot. Zubac stayed under the rim. Everybody stayed on the strong side of the floor, so Kawhi didn't get the opportunity to get that screen high up. And then Ty Lue had to call a timeout, I believe, with
10 seconds left.
10 seconds left. Then after that happens, Kawhi takes a shot over Draymond. He misses.
Bad shot.
Then they go into overtime. Once you're in overtime, you're the Warriors. You have all of that momentum. They come out. No, stop. You have all of that momentum. You're at home. And to me, they got completely outcoached in overtime. And I think that's a product of Steve Kerr. And I'm going to be honest. I love Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr, without a doubt, is a top 10 NBA coach of all time. But I believe his run in Golden State is over. And I think it's time for some new and some fresh blood in that organization on that sideline. I think that his lack of faith in development in some of the young guys, including a guy like Kuminga and some of the ones before, has been a reason as to why they've struggled. Like, he hasn't, if we can say what we want, he hasn't developed anyone. Steve Kerr hasn't turned anyone that was a guy into the guy.
I mean, I think it's kind of hard.
Stop that. You had a number 2 pick. Stop that.
I mean,
No. You had a number 2 pick. And all personality things aside, if you're one of the GOATs, you should be able to get something out of that number 2 pick. And he got absolutely zero.
Yeah, but can I?
So,
yeah, but
no,
yeah,
wait,
but hold on,
let me
wait. Can
finish.
I? But hold on.
Let me finish, and then you can retort. Because I'm the Warriors fan here. You're not. I've seen Warriors fans critical of Steve Kerr on Twitter since before they won a championship. And we've had the same criticisms. But it's been a decade of this shit, man. And I don't give a fuck what no motherfucking body on the earth says. If you have Jimmy fucking Butler and Stephen Wardell motherfucking Curry on your team, as he went up to Buddy Hield on that TNT game and said, hey, buddy, this is Steph Curry. Steph Curry, me, Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield, me, Steph Curry. Buddy, I don't know if you noticed, but Steph is the greatest shooter of all time. Well, you stupid motherfucker. All due respect. If you got enough balls to say that to Buddy while you mic'd up, why the fuck would you give him the ball to shoot the ball at the end of the game? That shit sounded like World War III. Clanking off the goddamn side of the backboard. They're not going to make the playoffs. I hope they do, but they're not. And when they don't, Steve Kerr is out of here. I'm done. Feel free, retort.
I don't think Steve Kerr's getting fired, regardless of what happens. I think that at this point, again, you just paid Jimmy Butler. You paid him for what, 2 years? So I think you just try to run it back and see what you can get out of next year with like a full training with a full season of training camp or whatever. I don't think there's any way Steve Kerr goes anywhere this offseason. Now, if they have a disappointing season next year, he might go somewhere. As far as the not developing people, I think it's just kind of hard, bro. Like the Wiseman thing, the Wiseman thing was just weird. Number one, also, that was what we forget about that draft was that was one of the weirdest drafts, and that was probably the weirdest draft in NBA history because of the COVID situation. You had no tournament, you couldn't really scout people. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and Wiseman, he played 2 college games, sat out the rest of the year. So he was basically a myth coming in. And the COVID thing was just in general kind of weird. And you draft him. Y'all are bad that year because Clay's hurt, everybody's hurt. And then the next year, you're trying to win a championship. When you're trying to win a championship, it's hard to develop guys. And also, in the middle of his development, he started to get hurt. Like, he was playing decently, then he tore his MCL, then you come back the next year, and shit, we trying to win now. So we ain't really got the time to develop you. I think that, Potts has been for a late first round pick. Well, not late. I think it was a late lottery pick, right? I think it was like the 15th pick, something like that. If I'm not mistaken, right? He was like the 15th pick. Yeah, I think for a guy that was a 15th pick, I think Potts has developed into, a guy that you look at like he'll be in the league 10 years. Moses Moody is a guy. He'll be in the league 10 years. Kuminga, I think Kuminga will be in the league 10, 15 years. I just think, like you said, I just don't know if he fits. The problem with young guys, when you have older guys, is it's hard to make those young guys fit the timeline of the older guys, especially if they don't necessarily fit the system that you're in the first place. I think Paz fits the system. Moody can fit the system. But Kuminga, you draft him off talent, but he don't necessarily fit the system. And also his timeline don't line up with the other guys. So I think it's just hard. As far as them missing the playoffs, I think that would be a catastrophic failure if they miss the playoffs. If they go out there and let the Kings or the Dallas Mavericks beat them to make the playoffs, I think that is a catastrophic failure. A catastrophic failure. As far as the game that they play, I just think the Clippers, they might just have a better basketball team. Especially if Kawhi is gonna play the way he played in that game. And Zubac, shout out Zubac, and shout out Ben Simmons. I think Ben Simmons
shout out to Zubac. Zubac was my first ever player interview. Zubac led the league in total rebounds this year. The only player in the NBA this year with 1,000 rebounds, 1,010 rebounds. Ivica Zubac. They saying Zubac back. Go ahead.
And shout out Ben Simmons. I think he made some of the biggest plays of